Hello and welcome to more nerdy Rodent geekery. Today I am having a little look at image datasets, basically the sort of thing that you would use for StyleGAN, StyleGAN2 or StyleGAN-ada. So as you can see, once you're using any of these applications, they've got a little bit about preparing datasets here, and that basically just says, you know, download one of our pre-made ones and run this tool on them. But you want to make your own custom dataset, don't you? You want your own images. So you're going to need about 1,000 for StyleGAN2-ada, if not a little bit more. If you're using StyleGAN2 or the original StyleGAN, then you're looking at more like 10 or 20,000. The final resolutions of these are going to be 124 by 124, so that's going to be the minimum source resolution for the image that I'm going to be looking for. I've only got a 1070, so my actual image I'm going to be training on is going to be 512 by 512, but eventually, maybe one day, I will own a card that can do the higher resolution. So I'm going to keep my datasets at a high resolution and then scale them down later. Now, the first thing I do is try and make sure that I can actually put the image in my dataset without any problems. And the license that I like to look for is public domain. Now, here in the UK, as far as I can tell, as long as the artist died more than 70 years ago, I'm probably okay to use that. I'm probably okay. There are a few exceptions, like performances of Peter Pan. They've got licenses in perpetuity, certainly in the UK, but all these laws and regulations do vary by country, so check on your country for where they are. So this one, copyrightuser.org, is what I use to get a lot of my information from. Certainly have a look through that. Yeah, it gives you all sorts of information about different types of things, films, music, works of art, other rights, curiosities, and gives you some more references to check there. Now, one of the big notes I made on there was reproductions of public domain images may themselves be subject to copyright. So that's like if you've got an orchestra and it's playing Mozart. Mozart obviously died more than 70 years ago, but the people playing it aren't dead yet, they're still alive in this particular performance, and so their performance can in fact be copyrighted. So it's much the same with images. So if an image is of a public domain picture such as the Mona Lisa, that photographer could in fact copyright their image, their representation of it. So yeah, it's an interesting world, the world of copyright. Quite difficult. I won't claim to understand any of it, so yeah, certainly have a dig in and figure out what your different licenses are, and what public domain means in your country. Some places it's 50 years, sometimes it's longer, but another set of licenses you can check out are the Creative Commons ones, so creativecommons.org, and a lot of these you can use as well. They have got CC BY and CC BY SA, which is quite good, so those allow for remixing, editing and adapting. You have to give attribution for the use of those, but that's fine. One license you can't use, of course, is no derivatives. So if it's got ND in it, then that is not a license you can use. They've also got a CC0, and that's pretty much the same as public domain. You are free to use that without attribution. Now, luckily, they also have this fantastic search engine here, so CC search. So if you're looking for content to use, you can tick that. Yeah, I want to use it commercially. Yes, I'm going to adapt it, and you can just type your search term in there. There you go. Loads and loads of images. Are these relevant? Yes or no? Well, I'm not entirely sure that's a face. Not entirely sure that's a face, but a lot of those are. But you can also limit it over here. So you can say, yeah, I only want the CC and by attribution and those. There you go. So there's all the licenses I'm going to be happy with, and you can even search across a wide variety of websites. So maybe you only want the Flickr ones, for example, or maybe you're happy with Flickr and this Thingiverse thing. There you go. Anyway, so yeah, that's quite a good search engine that you can use to have a look at things. Now, also lots of museums have open access policies, which allows you to use a lot of their images. So here you've got the Met. They made all their public domain works available under a particular collection, CC0. So you can go down and have a look at that collection. They've got quite a lot of things in there. So there you can see it's got an open access tick box. And again, you can search through. So maybe you want to do a StyleGAN of lots of ancient things or knives, or, you know, there's so many different choices of image that you can use. Also, we've got the Paris Musée collection as well. They also have, I think it's about 150,000 odd images in their collection. That's, again, lots of things there. It does switch to French a lot, irrespective of whether you select your language in the menu there. But when you search the collection, there is a little tick box under there that does say it's going to be available to use. They also have an API as well, and that is of course in French, but you can change it to English, and that gives you lots of information, documentation down there as well about how to get that. The Smithsonian, they also have this similar open access policy. So again, if you go to Smithsonian Open Access, you can search through loads and loads of images here. So if we do faces in here, for example, we will get a set of images that's slightly different to the other ones, but there we go, we get lots of faces. And again, you can filter by date and topic and resource type. So yeah, there's loads of different images you can look at there. You've also got the Europeana collection, if I can pronounce that properly, which is probably not. Again, similar sets of collections in here, and everything is open access, so you will be able to use it. That is the slowest website of all, so let's use this query I've already got here, slam that one in, and this is just a painting search, and this is everything here. So this is a particular collection, type of media, image, can I use this? Yes, there you go. And I've also got a filter on here a little bit lower down, so that I get the extra large images. So yeah, that's quite a decent resolution of image. Where else can we get images from? Raw Pixel. Raw Pixel also has a great public domain section. So Raw Pixel category 53 public domain. There we go. So we've got lots and lots of pictures there. Lots of them quite famous. Again, all of those public domain and CC0 fully usable. There's also lots of other sites you might have seen. Pexels, Unsplash, Pixabay, public domain pictures.net, LibreShot. One quite good one is Unsplash. On GitHub have released a couple of datasets here. So there's two, there's the big dataset and the small dataset. The dataset Lite there you can use for anything. The full dataset you can use just for testing, non-commercial purposes only there. So yeah, that's a great variety of images. Now, how do you get all these images though? That's lots of sources that you've got, but how are you going to download these? Well, there's a couple of ways. You can download them all manually, which is actually how I've created my first dataset. I find it quite relaxing looking through all the different museums and seeing their collections, and do I want that picture or do I not want that picture? And you know, you can really curate the set that you're going in for. If not, then you can use APIs or automatic image download software, so scraping. Now the thing is with the scraping is that also a good idea as well? Do you know what you're doing? And I found this quite good article towards Data Science Ethics in Web Scraping. So they list some general principles there for the ethical scraper. So if you've got a public API, then use that, and you'll always use a user string agent, and make sure you use a reasonable request rate. You know, you don't want to grab 10,000 images all at once, and basically be nice to the people that are giving you the images, and also a little bit there the people that are providing the images. So yeah, make sure you're being nice when you're scraping. There's a little scraping tool he mentions in there, Beautiful Soup. So yes, have a look at Beautiful Soup if you want to do a little bit of scraping. There is also a GitHub topic here as well, image scraper. And this gives you a wide variety of different tools that you can use. So there's a Google Images download, there's image search, VSO scraper, Flickr scraper, all these different types of scraper. So wherever you want to get your images from, and lots of these have different filters in as well, so that you can make sure that you're only getting the ones which have licenses that you can use. Or maybe you want to make your own images. Maybe you've already got a load of images that you want to use. Maybe you're a photographer and you've got a whole back catalogue. Fantastic. Or maybe you've got loads of videos. Well, that's fine. You can turn all those videos into frames and use those frames. Or maybe you're a complete nerd and you've actually coded something already which generates images, and you want to use that as a data set for StyleGAN. Well, why not? So, for example, there's the great programs to create fractal flames, like this one here, J Wildfire. This is always quite fun. Now, of course, the only problem with this is it takes a little bit of time to generate those images. I'll just do a little random batch now, but it does have a lot of advantages. Obviously you can set your image size specifically when you are generating your images, and you have a lot of control, and you can create a lot of images quickly. So I will eventually be creating a dataset with lots of these fractal flames in to see what happens, but that's just an example of one tool that you could create lots of images with and then go a bit StyleGAN crazy on. So let's exit out of there. Now there are also a few other things. Mandelbulber 2, that is also another good program for creating lots of bizarre images. How well they will go through StyleGAN, I have absolutely no idea, but I am going to find out. So again, that's a little example of some of the things you can create. So that's more 3D fractals. I've done lots of videos with those. Or you could go a little bit more weird. There's one here that's an abstract art generator. So this generates lots of different things, lots of geometric shapes and mosaics and striped vertical and horizontal things. So yeah, that's a weird art generator there that can be used. Or maybe you've just written your own because you're really that nerdy. I mean, why not? It's brilliant. And yeah, so like I've mentioned, you can create images exactly the right size. You don't have to do any of the stuff that I'm about to talk about now, which is getting those images ready. So you've downloaded them all, however you've got your images, you've got a load of images, you've probably got about 1,000 of them, or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just want to grab a data set that somebody's already made and use that. Ooh, okay, well that's certainly an idea. One thing you can use there is Kaggle. So this has a lot of pre-made data sets in here. So if I just have a little look here for faces or face images, there we go. And then I can go to Datasets, and then I can select, if I say commercial, for example, and then there's lots of data sets there. So there's an anime face data set. So, ooh, yeah, it tells me open database license. So that's another license. So you can click on that license and read through these and see if you can use them. So yes, there's lots of other licenses that you'll meet out there in the wild, but that gives you an example of some of the faces in that data set. So you can have a click and have a look, and are they the right size? And yeah, so lots of data sets you can look for on Kaggle and also Google Datasets as well. There's also a little bit on GitHub, which has some awesome public datasets here. So awesome public datasets. Now this is lots of datasets. This isn't just images. This is all sorts, but it has a bit here on image processing, and for example here we've got 10,000 US adult face database, so you can have a look at that. Or there's 2 gigabytes of cat photos, so there's a 10k US adult face database. Maybe that's big enough for you. I think that's quite a small image size on that, but there's loads of pre-made datasets that somebody has already done for you. Now you will obviously want to tweak these, like I say, to get that 1024 by 1024 maximum, and that's going to be lots of cropping and scaling and all that sort of thing. And this is where facial recognition comes in really, really handy, because this is basically going to do a lot of that work for you. So if you've got lots of pictures of, say, faces, then you can use a tool like Autocrop, and that will, you've got your image like that and you want them all to look like that, fine, Autocrop, that'll go through it. Beware with this is a destructive process. It will ruin the input folder and the output folder, so always make sure you've got a copy of your original dataset before you start processing it. Another option is this one, Katna, which does much the same thing. So this will allow you to do video keyframe extraction. So say you've got lots of videos with faces in and you want to take all the faces out of those. Yeah, there you go. So lots and lots of tools to do things with faces. If you want to automatically crop other things out of the image that you've got, well, that gets a little bit tricky, because you've actually then got to create another data set for your custom object detection. You could use something like YOLO if you want to use that, but yeah, that means making a whole other data set. Oops. Yeah. Anyway, there's other things that may trip you up about images, that not all images are the same. So not all pings and JPEGs are equal. You're going to have grayscale images and pings with transparency, and if they're not all the same, then that may trip you up a little bit. What I do with that basically is use image magic. So I've got a one-liner there. I use mogrify and pass it the input path, output path, and square size. So I've got a big directory full of images that I think are okay, and I just want to make sure that they are all okay, ready to go into StyleGAN, and so that's what I run. So that resizes them all to whatever square size I set, and if they are bigger than that, then it will cut out a bit at the top middle of it, make it that square size. If it's a PNG with a transparency, it will take that away, it will flatten it and make it white. It'll also turn it into a JPEG with the same color space, so sRGB quality 90. So that just makes sure every image in that directory is exactly the same size and type. So yeah, when you're doing the dataset tool later, it doesn't fall over and go, oh, this is different. But before you even pass it into that dataset tool, you do have to look at it, because Autocrop makes mistakes. All these tools make mistakes. So you still got to check through every image and make sure, if you're looking for faces, that you haven't got a bit of a hand in there or something. It's not a face, it's just a hand, or it's a bit of clothing. You'll also want to go through, if you've used something like Autocrop, the rejects directory, because that will have faces in there that you do want to use, but it's just that it hasn't been able to detect it. So you can do a bit of manual cropping as well, messing around with your dataset. Now, if you want to make your dataset a little bit bigger, you can use image augmentation, and that is what StyleGAN2-ada does for you, so to speak, on the fly. So if we have a little look at this, and we can also have a little look at the paper, just check out the PDF. Now we scroll down here, we see a little bit of the augmentation that it does here. So you can see it's rotating the image and it's changing the colors a little bit, and this is what it does sort of inside. But you can also actually augment your original data set, such as with this mirror or augment it does, so it flips your data set. Now, the thing to be aware of is, obviously, if you're doing any of these augmentations to your original data set, those are going to be represented in your output model as well. As I've noted here, X-flips are reasonably safe for a portrait, so you don't care whether it's looking left or right, but you wouldn't want to do a Y-flip on it, because an upside-down portrait, probably not so good. But depending on your image, you may be able to do a lot of changes to your dataset and be quite happy that they're in your output as well. In which case you may want to look at image augmentation for machine learning, ImageAug, which is quite a good little tool, and this does loads and loads of different things. So you've got your image there, and you can do all sorts of transformations on it, bounding boxes and polygons, and you've got all the rotations there. You can cut bits out of it, change the contrast. The amount of things that this tool can do is quite incredible. Yeah, you can add noise. So this is a lot of this is what the StyleGAN2-ada does, sort of in the middle, while you're not looking, but doesn't impact your output dataset. This will impact your output dataset if you're changing your input dataset, but it does mean that you can get a much bigger dataset. So say you've only got 250 images, you could run it through ImageAug and just do loads and loads of different crops. So you could have the same image zoomed in, zoomed out a bit, cropped from different angles. So you could take your 250 images and turn it into 1,000 images quite easily, just by doing some augmentation on it, adding little bits of snow. There's absolutely loads of things that you can do with ImageAug, and Augmentor is also much the same thing. But again, there we go, we can see, scroll down and see some of the things it does. So this can work with masks, and you can sort of dynamically resize it and change your image in all sorts of different ways, and do distortions and all this parallax shifting and skewing and tilting and rotations, and there's all these things going on, all these things, random erasure. So yeah, all sorts of augments that you can do. So let's have a little look, shall we, at my data set I've got here. So this is my face paintings, and this has basically been run through Autocrop. So all of these were downloaded manually, mostly from Met Museum, the Smithsonian and Paris Musée. So Autocrop went through most of them. I then also went through the rejects directory and moved a lot of those in there. Hopefully there aren't any duplicates in there, but that should be basically done there you go. You got one data set there, and yeah, just scan through them, make sure there aren't any images there that you don't want, and you're ready to turn them into TF records. Fantastic. So there you go. There's a little bit there about image datasets, how I make my datasets for StyleGAN and StyleGAN2-ada. What did I miss? And how do you go about creating your datasets? So do leave some comments below and let me know. That is about all for now. Nerdy Rodent out.